everyone, welcome to the Tuesday show of the Honor Club Wrestling podcast. If I say podcast, these won't go on the podcast channels. These are YouTube exclusive videos that we do every Tuesday. This will be our news roundup, followed by a special monthly feature. This month's feature being RateWrestle's Awards. You want to tell us a little bit more about that, Rate?
They're awards. I award them. No, yeah, basically I've been doing. Oh, you had that video I've put up, which kind of goes in more details. But basically, I've been doing it like 3 years, and it runs between May and April, so like a financial year technically. It's just based upon my ratings, and then like the average of the ratings. You've got like male wrestler of the year, female wrestler, tag team / stable, because I throw them together because there's not enough tag team matches to kind of qualify. Match of the year, event of the year, and company year. And it's just I've been doing it the last few years, and this will be the first time I've spoke about it. So we're going to bring in the views.
Nice.
Fair play. And how are you doing, Frozzy?
All good, mate. All good. Just in the process of moving from one place to another. Start a new job on Tuesday. All
Nice.
good.
That's the kind of news we like to hear. News that we don't like to hear so much is news of releases. There have been quite a few notable ones over the last week and a bit since our last show. NXT taking the brunt of it. The names, in case anyone's missed it, were Dakota Kai, Malcolm Bivens, Blair Baldwin, who was one of the referees, Harland, who is Parker Boudreaux, Persia Perrotta, Sanjana George, also known as Vishkanya. I think she was just developmental, hadn't made her debut yet. Draco Anthony, Raylan Devine, Mila Milani, and possibly the most surprising name on there, Dexter Lumis. Now, we'll go through these one by one, starting with Dakota Kai. Now, I've been led to believe from various reports that I've read from Wrestling Observer, Fightful, etc., that Dakota Kai actually wanted her release. She'd been kind of spinning her wheels a bit in NXT, even though she was featured weekly, but didn't like the direction of the brand, and was told that she wasn't going to be used in the main roster, so can't really blame her on that. What are your thoughts on that? I start with you, Frozzy.
Just not. The most surprising thing is, wasn't she like a tag team champion like a month ago? And so they clearly knew that this was potentially going to happen, because she must have been saying for a while, "I'm not going to sign." I don't understand, like, because a few of them have been pulled out in the middle of stories. It just makes no sense.
A bit yourself, Rate.
One of them things, isn't it? Because if she's wanted a release, it makes more sense to me, because mainly she wasn't being used the best she could. Like, she had a good run in NXT for a bit, and now it just seems it was petering out. And as said, like Smooth said, she won the tag title, which they did for like 6 days or something silly, didn't they? In the end, if I remember. But yeah, it was. It's probably best for her. She needs to kind of go away and do something else than NXT. I think she was getting to a big fish, small pond kind of thing.
Yeah, really interesting but sad stat coming out of this is 2 people who were tag champions at Stand and Deliver, or at least in and around that time, left company. So even winning a title doesn't guarantee your safety in WWE. Next one that's significant was Malcolm Bivens. Again, he had rather loudly said he wasn't going to re-sign. The whole Diamond Mine thing came about was because he told them he wasn't going to re-sign. He didn't have anything creatively interesting to him, and they weren't using him the rest of the time. So again, can't really blame him on that. And it's a shame. I only got seeing Malcolm Bivens towards the end of the NXT run when we started watching it for the show and for preparing for takeovers to predict them. So I never got seeing a lot of his stuff. You guys want to shed any more light on that?
Didn't really see much of him until you said like we started reviewing him for this, and he was good. But if he said loudly, "I don't want to be here," then yeah, it's not. It isn't so much of a surprise, I suppose.
I saw him when he was early Dynamite when I was still watching NXT religiously. It was decent in it, but it just Dynamite got destroyed, and then I think he realised that it was just pointless. Did the rumour of something that got pitched to him? I don't know if you heard about that.
I know we don't usually get into storyline speculation, but I had heard he was pitched to be Omos's manager before they decided on the MVP turn, which that would have been interesting. But I think he was prepared for this anyway, because within hours of his release being notified, he had like spoken word tour dates in place, with shows starting as soon as this weekend. So I think that must have been close to his contract expiry anyway.
Yeah.
Because he had all that lined up, so I think he'll be hitting the ground running, and he'll be delighted to have gotten his release, I think. There's Blair Baldwin, the referee. There was a referee, I don't know.
Yeah, that's all I know.
It's someone's livelihood. It's a shame that they've not got their job anymore.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't imagine that being a referee for WWE and NXT anyway is a full-time gig. Hopefully they have their own thing going on outside WWE that they can compensate for.
Definitely.
Then of course you got Parker Boudreaux, also known as Harland. Writing I think was on the wall when you started not seeing him with the Joe Gacy stuff. He was taken off TV about 2 or 3 weeks before the release came. Rumours, and these are rumours reported by Dave Meltzer, was that he wasn't catching on quickly enough with the wrestling stuff at the Performance Centre, and he wasn't doing well. So WWE just decided to cut their losses with him. But there was huge hype around him. There's a pinned tweet we put in our Discord, link in the description by the way, where Paul Heyman tweeted out that he was the next Brock Lesnar, and that tweet was not even a full year ago. So
I remember seeing that.
Something's obviously changed in that time for WWE to think he's unsalvageable. There must have been a relatively hefty investment to secure him off his amateur background. I don't even recall seeing a Harland match. I know he'd maybe been in a couple of tag matches with Gacy, but I don't think he's had a singles match in NXT.
Until they released him, mate, I forgot he existed, so.
All I remembered he was about because I keep getting his cards in Supercard.
Well, he had like 4. No, he's had
televised
matches. 14th of December, he fought Guru Raj. They're all a minute long. Harland versus Andre Chase. Dusty Classic, where they lost. DQ. Having Ebonelli and Draco Anthony. Yeah, so they're all squash matches.
So
like
4 televised matches then.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can't look at it, I can see where like it's kind of like they're trying to cut the losses.
So that's sad. Persia Pirotta I was very surprised at, because she's been very prominent in NXT with her partner with Duke Hudson, doing the kind of mixed tag feud with Indy Hartwell and Dexter Lumis. Very surprised she's gone because she was decent in the ring. She wasn't going to set the world alight, but it was fairly unique looking at the other women on the NXT roster. We had a decent amount of talent on the mic. So,
He had enough to get by. That was
Yeah.
the surprising thing.
So
Yeah.
I've not seen any reports come out either as to why, or any kind of statement from her. Which I know many of them, unless their contract expired, won't make any statements until the 30 days. But I was surprised at that one.
Yeah.
Sanjana George, also known as Fish Kanya, I don't think she had made it out of the Performance Centre, if I recall correctly.
I don't know how
You're
to spell
probably
the name.
right.
How's Kanya spelled?
Kanya. Kilo Alpha
Yeah,
and
no.
November Yankee Alpha.
Yeah, that's what I put in originally. There's no matches or anything, so I don't think she did.
Draco Anthony had been shown a lot of promise. Still very young, good athletic look. Had been doing stuff backstage in segments as well. Again, in and around Dexter Lumis stuff. So I don't know why anyone that's associated with Dexter Lumis is getting sent out the door with him. But he's another one I thought had a lot of potential. So expect to see him on Dark Elevation soon. And Raylene Devine and Mila Milani, I think, are another two that never made out of the Performance Centre.
Never heard of him, yeah.
And of course, the big one, Dexter Lumis, who's already changed his Twitter back to Sam Shaw again. The saddest thing about it was he was just about finished painting of Vince McMahon for him. Obviously, it's sad that he's lost his livelihood as well. So maybe saying that's the saddest thing is
We've already
stretch,
confirmed the
but
saddest thing is the picture, not his release. The picture's the sad thing.
Of course, there's been lots of reports this week of someone who's begged and begged and begged for the release and not got it. Roderick Strong. He was convinced to re-sign when he was pitched to Diamond Mine, which was originally going to be him and Arturo Ruas, with Marine Shafir and Malcolm Bivens, and the young tag team. The brothers. And they broke off and done their own thing, and he's the only surviving member of the original faction. Of course, his buddies are over in AEW, so can't really blame him for asking to get out. But WWE have been very firm in telling him no, because they have creative plans for him. And to Roddy's credit, yes, he's asking to get out his contract. But apparently, he is being very professional and doing what's necessary and what's asked of him. So we'll need to see what's happening with that and just keep an eye on that situation, I think. What are your thoughts on it?
Be a bit of a stupid thing to do, wouldn't it? Just not being professional in that situation. You've asked for it. You signed a new contract. You're kind of binded to it unless you go full CM Punk. But, I mean, it's not good for a reputation as a wrestler, is it? To sit out like
that. Just do it though, don't they? Look at Mustafa Ali when he flipping started doing the free Ali stuff on Twitter and crap like that. Some wrestlers try and do it.
Look at where he is now.
Being a winner on Raw, I haven't watched it this week, but I'll get there.
Yeah, I've watched it.
And just one other to do with NXT, another release, but this one was a few months ago. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but the formerly Ember Moon, now reverted back to Athena, did an interview with Chris Van Fleet, where she said that WWE talent management had started having meetings with female talent, telling them to dress sexy. Feel free to clip this and use this out of context. Her exact words were, "We're being told to wear these fishnet booty butt cheek shorts and dress sexy, but I cater to children. There's no way I'm doing that." And I know many of the women in there were just unhappy. They all want us to be Mandy Rose, but none of us are Mandy Rose. She's incredible. That's not fair. So, yeah, quite the. I mean, I'd long joked that they were reverting back to the Divas era in NXT, but I didn't think they were having those kind of chats with talent backstage.
Is that just one person saying it though, or is this multiple people?
Quite full have reached out to talent to get confirmation of that, and apparently it is the case.
Wow.
I think
That's a fact.
I think after Dakota Kai's 30 days is up, we'll get a bit more information on that. Because I can see that having played a part in her wanting out there, because she did say that if she was seeing the direction the brand was going, I'm wondering if that's what she's referring to. Sadly, WWE aren't the only ones releasing talent. AEW recently let a few contracts expire without being renewed. I know it's slightly different from WWE because AEW aren't cutting people mid-contract, but these people have been let go at the end of their presumably 3-year term that they would have signed in 2019. And the three names being Marco Stunt and Joey Janella. Those two are kind of well known and talked about, with Joey Janella even saying months ago that he wasn't going to re-sign. Though I expect that was a mutual decision. From what I hear, there was not a lot of pitches to keep him.
No, I can't remember the last time I saw him.
Marco Stunt hadn't been on TV since Ember, I want to say, was split off from Jurassic Express. So the writing was on the wall for that. But most surprising to me of the three names is Stu Grayson of the Dark Order. No word on if Uno is released or not. I would imagine not, because he's doing a lot of work with the game. So I don't know if he had that 1 year option everyone keeps referencing having been taken up. But so far, only Stu Grayson, Marco Stunt, and Joey Janella have been removed from the roster page. AEW. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I'm with you. I think the Stu Grayson one's the most shocking, although not shocking at the same time. Of the three, he's the most surprising. The other two, like I said, I can't remember the last time I saw Joey Janela, and Marco Stunt's not been on telly since September, so I mean, I think that says it all.
Joey Janella, I could see happening anyway, because he was just there for when they first started, he was like a big name on the indie scene, but then they kind of got bigger names, and then Joey Janella's just gone in the forgot bin. Marco Stunt was just a kind of novelty act without, there's nothing about him, I'll be honest. Stu Grayson, it's sad. Stu Grayson is a good wrestler. It's just he wasn't being used. Dark Order kind of as a trooper, not being really used now. Now that Hangman's on his own, they've kind of just forgot the Dark Order. They're just like a YouTube channel kind of thing. Completely forgot about, which he announced on Twitter, which I just quickly checked just to see. Do you see? number 25 was Stardom World Climax the Top, which was like a mixture of they had the top and the best, which both made the list. Then TJPW Wrestle Princess 2. Fans. Ring of Honor Final Battle End of an Era came in at 23. So that was the last show before, well, we kind of ended in the on like the note of it.
Yeah.
One of WrestleMania came in at 22, which was that the same night? Was night 2 the same night? Is that where we?
Yeah.
Okay. And then to round it off until we start going into a bit more, which we'll have to start looking at the cards. We had 21, which was New Japan G1 Climax Day 1. A bit more in depth, we're going to start with AEW Revolution, which I'll break down the card a bit, so you might have to kind of bear with me each one because I'm going to have to search it as we go along, so I didn't load 20 pages, as I said, because this will take forever. But Revolution, that was the card of Jericho versus Eddie Kingston, which was a very good start match. Jurassic Park, I say that every show. Jurassic Express versus Young Bucks versus Red Dragon, which was one of the matches of the night. Cassidy versus Hobbs versus Lee versus Starks versus Wardlow, which was the Revolution? What do they call that match?
Something Revolution. Something. That's the one. Face the Revolution. I was going to say Head to the Revolution. I went for Nickelback.
And then we had Cargill versus Conti, CM Punk versus MJF. Thunder Rosa, Bryan Danielson versus Moxley, which was my match of the night for the show. And then you had Alan Guevara and Sting before Guevara became who he is right now and no one likes him, versus the Andrade Hardy Family Office. What a fantastic team that was at the time. And then it was main evented by Adam Cole versus Adam Page, so the battle of the Adams.
Yep.
Part of the very good event. I don't know if you remember much of it.
No, I do. Yeah, it was decent. Good, I enjoyed it.
I don't think I caught Revolution. It wasn't that one I caught.
And following up with that is an independent show from a company called, I think they're called Independent Wrestling TV. So their 100th show of the year, 100 show since they've started. It was a very good card. So I'll read some of the names you won't have heard of. Some of them you'll heard of because they're just randomly like AEW talent or they've been on the indies for a while. So you had Steve Sanders versus Austin Luke versus Gigi Everson versus Marcus Mathers, not Marshall Mathers, versus Reed Walker versus Ryan Redfield, which I believe was a ladder match, which was a very good like-in ladder match. You had Eric Martin versus Kevin Blackwood. Kevin Blackwood's very good. If you get to see him at some point, he's very, very good. And then you would have heard a few of these. You got Hallow Wicked, Jigsaw, and Ultimantrous Black, which are kind of like the Shikara guys if you used to watch any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And they first a team called Raleigh, which is Alexander James, who's from WXW. I think he's in there a lot. Logan Easton, La Review, and Richard Holiday from MLW. Kevin Koo versus Matt Kowalski. Matt Kowalski, I'm sure, was in the UFC. And Jonathan Gresham versus Adam Priest. So Jonathan Gresham was kind of destroying the indies at this point. Lee Moriarty and Trish Adora, who Trish Adora just appeared on Rampage this week. A really, really good talent. And they faced Chris Statlander and Orange Cassidy in a very good match. It was a fun match for them. John Wayne Murdoch versus Warhorse, which was a bit of kind of like a deathmatchy kind of version. I really am a big fan of John Wayne Murdoch. If you've seen any of them, it's just pure chaos. Just like proper mud. I nearly said mud show wrestlers. Proper in like deathmatch wrestler. And then first 5-star rating of the kind of listing them down was Wheeler Yuta. Is Daniel Garcia.
Nice.
Yeah, it was for the Independent Wrestling Championship. I think that's what they call it in the company. And it was a 5-star match. It was a 60-minute draw. Really, really entertaining. if you can go and see it, obviously you need to put an hour behind for yourselves. But yeah, it's a very good match, and especially if you think about it, what's going on with them now. Then we had a DDT. So I think this is the first event from DDT. I don't know if you ever catch any DDT, Pro.
Occasionally, I'm subscribed to it on YouTube, so occasionally, if I've got nothing else to do, when it comes up, then I'll get one on my watch. But it's in Japanese, so I'm lost.
And then they get in English. They've got a bloke. They've got Chris Brooks from England, who he does a lot of the commentary if he's not on the shows. And then they've got some Bale and Aki, who's do you know that company that Emi Sakura does, the one where it's in the apartment? I don't know if you've heard of this.
I don't think so.
Atto Move Pro, go look that up. Basically, it's just wrestling on gym mats in an apartment, and Emi Sakura's the one that runs it. But it's so random. Suzuki fights randomly in it. It's mental. But so that was the Grand Prix Day 2 in Okuka. Grand Prix Day 2 in Otaku. So what I'll do with some of these events, because if I keep breaking down the whole card, you're not going to know. Like, most of the people will watch it unless they know the big name, and not really know half the people. A bit more in depth for the people that I can find all the matches I really loved on the card. So you had Chris Brooks and Drew Parker. Chris Brooks and Drew Parker. Have any of you seen either of those?
Brooks rings a bell.
Brooks is like 6'5", and he's called the Calamari Catch King. He used to be teamed with Jonathan Gresham.
Mm-hmm.
And then Drew Parker, if you saw any progress, he was in there for a bit. Proper deathmatchy kind of guy now, but he used to team with Kid Lycos. What I think they used to be called. And they faced Mao, who is teams with Speedball Mike Bailey a lot, and Shunma Katsuma. That was a 4-star like brawl hardcore match. Then you had Yun Akiyama. I'm hoping you've heard of Akiyama. I was going to say he fought Yuki Ueno. That was a 3-star matchup, but he's more of what you know. And then this was another 5-star matchup I had was Yuji Okabayashi versus Konno Takashita, who's the guy that's W Dark at the moment. And they're trying to build him pretty well in the internet show at the moment, so I feel like they're going to throw him onto like Dynamite at some point. But he's like one of the main guys in DDT at the moment. Super brawl. Following that was a more recent show. We had New Japan Windy City Riots, which was I'm trying to segue as I'm doing this because I have to search each show as I'm doing it without kind of like leaving the lull in this. So hopefully most of these shows are recent as well. But yeah, so that was evented by John Moxley versus Will Ospreay, which was always going to be a good match. Will Ospreay is like on a roll of his life at the moment. My match of the night, which it sounds beautiful, was Tomohiro Ishii versus Minoru Suzuki. It was an utter beat the crap out of each other match with Suzuki just laughing all the way. It was so good. This I want to see from Tomohiro Ishii. He's had a few in AEW, but he just needs someone like Suzuki who can just throw shit at him. Paul's match with him was proper weak. There was a good match with Finn Juice and Brody King. Brody King in his outside his House of Black gimmick versus EK, which is Jonah and Shane Haste. Haste was from NXT, and Bad Tito, which I don't think you've heard of. I just love the name Bad Dude Tito. A matchup with Jay White versus a mystery rest, which ended up being Shota Umino, which is basically is John Moxley's kind of
that Red Shoes kid
thing. But John Moxley is kind of like mentoring him. Supposedly there is rumours that he'll end up in the BCC at some point. They don't start just shelling people into it.
Well, maybe like BCW Japan. NWO Japan.
Well, branching out proper there. But yeah, so that was a very good card. Do you think this is kind of like a segue now of the 20 to 10 one's going to be a bit more too much, I think, and I think just going from 10 to 1 might be a bit better. Because this part of the segment, as I said, it's just me rattling.
It'll be different when we do like the solo things. It's only because the events have so many components.
Yeah, it's just too much talking. I feel like it's more of if you see the event, you know the event. So this is an executive decision we're going to go right here, right now, because I feel like it's rambling already. So yeah, with number 16 was Noah Mitsuhara Misawa's Memorial Show, so they do that every year. It was a very good show. Followed up by Noah New Year's. AEW All Out, which was number 14. Adams 5-Star Grand Prix Day 1, which is kind of like their G1 Climax. Which came in at number 13. Number 12 was New Japan G1 Climax Day 3. Number 11 was New Japan Dominion 6.6 Osaka Joe Hall. Fit pronunciation, I feel really good about that. And then, yeah, I'll start breaking these more because we're getting into the ones where it's kind of like, at least we can talk about it a bit more. So we're going to start, obviously, as saying this, if you haven't seen it, it's going to make no sense now. We're going to start with Noah, crossover in Sendai. Which I'm no idea now. So it was my event of the year for Noah. Like recently because they've just and I've been watching obviously a lot of Kabashi and stuff like that, and it kind of led me to kind of watch their more recent stuff. And it was just a very crossover in Sendai. I can't even find the card now, so we're going to be segueing the crap out of this. So yeah, there was three 4-star matches on here. So you had Namaichi Marufuji, who's been around for years, versus Takeshi Shigegira, who was the guy you probably will know him from because he's the guy that was involved in the Atani thing recently. The wrestler that Germaned him. Yeah, he's a wrestler though. Had Atsushi Kogo, Masaki Tamiya, and Yoshiki Niyamura. I'm glad you know all of them. Versus Kongo, which was Katsuko Nakajima. Nakajima is fantastic. You'll hear more of him in my Wrestlers of the Year award. He's going to be up there. I haven't done the listing yet, so I don't know where he is, but he's fantastic. And so was Kenu and Manu Psoya. So 4-star match. And then you had Dasuka Harada and Hajime Ohara versus Kongo, which was Haru and Tadasuka. So that was just words to use, guys, weren't it? That's
I thought you were speaking Japanese then, mate.
And we'll follow up by New Japan G1 Climax Day 2, which we're going to play to right now. If my browser works, so this could be the end of the whole awards right now. We'll never do them again, judging by what's happening right now. If we get this one out of the way, then it's fine going forward. So the G1 Climax, as you know, it's just a tournament-style thing. It's like a league, like the Premier League, where everyone faces everyone. So the main event of the show, which was Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Kazuchika Okada, which was always going to be a great match, like them two in a matchup. You had Taichi versus Hiroko Gota, Sonada versus Tamatonga, Chase Owens versus Jeff Cobb, and then Yoshihashi versus Evil. So all rated more than 3 stars, but the match of the night was Kazuchika Okada versus Tanahashi, which rated 4 1/4. So that was a very good event. And then we'll follow up with one of the higher rated WWE shows, which was NXT TakeOver 36. Can you think of what that show was without me finding it? I'm going to now, but can you think of any of it? What happened in that show?
TakeOver 36. I'm going to say no.
Genuinely not. I'm drawing a blank.
Was that? It wasn't where Walter and Dragunov was it?
It was. It was a very. Yeah, it was. Yeah, you were good. For some reason, in my head, that was the main event. That's one. That was the main event in my head, and then I looked, and it wasn't the main event. But yeah, that was on there. Times versus LA Knights. Raquel Dakota Kai, which was a great matchup at the time as well. Dragunov versus Walter, which was definitely the match of the night. It could be match of the year. It's so good.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Kyle O'Reilly versus Adam Cole in the 2 out of 3 falls match, which I think is the end of Adam Cole in NXT, if I remember. I can't remember if he had much after that. And main evented by Samoa Joe versus Karrion Kross in that fateful match, which was a good match, but then Joe relinquished the title literally 2 weeks later. That was the matchup via that. We're followed up by another Joshi Wrestling Show matchup, so you can both block your ears and just pretend that you're listening again. Which was Stardom Tokyo Dream Cinderella Special Edition. So it's by Stardom shows right now. They just name them long-winded titles. Find it, so starring. Here we go. So this had one of my matches of the year as well, which was Yumatami Hayashishita. That was hell there. Versus Shuri. If you need to watch Shuri at some point, she's like Minoru Suzuki. Like, she's got that legit background and she can just beat the shit out of people. But she's like proper legit. She's like a mixture of Suzuki and Baszler.
Right.
Legit arse fence. Yeah, she's just really good. Every match card was a 3+ match for me, a 3-star match. Well, that was 5 stars, but the rest are all very good matches. Like, I'm not gonna with you lot. Like, I can bring these up because obviously we get a lot of like Koi watches this and stuff like that. So we'll go with this match because he watches it, which was AZM and Natsupoi versus Julia. Random trivia fact: Julia was born in Chelsea.
No way.
Recently, so that's something to look up. And Tan Nakano versus Mina Shirakawa and Momo Watanabe. And it's just hard. Like, there's nothing I said. I can't really describe these like in depth without kind of boring people. And we're going to go up to the highest rated event for GCW for the year, which was Ashes to Ashes. Catch any GCW at all?
No. I saw the world, and can't remember the show names. I've seen a couple of them. So, like, I was never into CZW.
Yeah, so this is kind of like, if you're not into them, you might not be into GCW. Yeah. This was a stacked card for GCW as well. So you had Tony Deppen versus Atticus Cogar, who's he's very good at Atticus Cogar. Cole Roderick versus Brandon Lee. Then you had Iron Beast. Iron Beast are like the new Road Warriors. Like, they're just absolute machines. You might have seen a lot of gifs of Shane Mercer. Shane Mercer's the guy that did like a reverse tombstone off the top rope and stuff like that.
You see the one that did like the cradle pile driver into power slam thing?
More than likely, yeah. He does stuff like that.
Right.
And he does like the full
to know that that's
slam
not
off the rope. He does a flip. And they faced which was Effie and Ali Catch. Then you had Joey Janella versus Lee Moriarty, so an all AEW affair at the time, which was my second best match of the show. Mance Warner versus Nolan Edwards. And you had Nick Gage. Everyone loves a good Nick Gage match versus Jordan Oliver. And then the main event was G-Raver versus Jimmy Lloyd. So G-Raver's at the moment, we probably shouldn't. Yeah, he's kind of in a bit of controversy, but as I said, with Mark, I'm going for the matches, so I'm not going to talk much about him personally. But like, match-wise, it was a very good match. It was just, these are two really good deathmatch guys. He had like a proper rivalry where G-Raver got his neck, I think he got cut open by glass, not in this match, and it kind of just led to him kind of fighting Jimmy Lloyd continuously. But so that was that. And then followed up by at number 5, so we're nearly at the end of the list, boys, and then we can actually go into stuff we can discuss a bit more. AEW Full Gear. Do we know much about that while I'm searching that up?
Full Gear was Kenny's last show before he took time off. That's where Hangman won the title.
Rectamundo in that called 5.5-star match that Dave Rater gave it. Anyway, Dave Rater, I've mixed me and him together now. We're at one. That AEW kind of sweeps the top of this going towards it. Like they've got another one after that. So you had F versus Darby Allin, Lucha Rose versus FTR, which was a great matchup as well. Danielson versus Miro. When Danielson was first coming around, that's like a great matchup like that. 6-man tag match, which was Christian Cage and Jurassic Express versus the Super Click. Then you had Fightful Cody Rhodes and Pac versus Andrade El Idolo and Malachi match versus Ty Conti. CM Punk versus Kingston. The 10-man tag Minneapolis Street Fight match, which was fantastic. Dave Rater, Dave Meltzer rated that. The Men of the Year and Dan Lambert and Junior Dos Santos. How much do you think he rated that?
3 3/4.
Yeah, I'd have said 3.
Match that one. So yeah, we all know where that's continuously going. And as I said, yeah, Adam Page versus Kenny Omega broke the scale as usual, which was 5.5 stars. It was a very good match. Anything above 5 stars makes no sense in my head. It's just stupid when you get to that point. And then the top-rated WWE show, which I think we're going to have a bit of discussion about, which was Crown Jewel.
Yep, a Saudi show. It's WWE special
Show
by
of the year.
match quality. We must stress, not by any other
Opinion.
metric, but average match quality. Let's keep
Really
that to
good
the
show.
forefront of our mind with this.
Like, even Dave Meltzer loved it, which he struggles to get there. So you had Edge versus Seth Rollins in a Hell in a Cell match to kick it off randomly. Mansoor versus Mustafa Ali, which was your typical get Mansoor over, but it was actually a good contest. RK Bro versus AJ Styles and Omos when that was a thing. Goldberg versus Bobby Lashley. Drop. Woods Allah. McIntyre. You had the versus Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks match. You had the Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar matchup. Sasha Banks.
That's what you said, mate.
Sasha Banks. And the highest rated AEW show of the year, Double or Nothing. Do we remember that show?
Double or Nothing was... That's the one that's just gone, is it? I know it's May last year.
That wasn't the exploding ring crap,
Is that
was it?
Omega Bryan? That Omega Bryan in their
No, because I
Raw?
finally found it. Versus Cassidy versus Pac was the main event.
Oh, the triple threat. Yeah, I remember that.
Right, the 4-star matchup, which is probably a always for a lot of people. I love that match.
No, I did as well. There was
Even
loads of near
Meltzer-
falls and everything that were really good in that match.
Mounts are rated at 4.5, so all you get Mounts. But yeah, well, it was a good match. You had that was the one with Cody versus Agogo, Page versus Cage.
Oh, when
The
Cody
Young
ended
Bucks versus
racism.
Eddie Kingston, Maloxy, yeah. Miro versus Lance Archer. Baker won the title against Shida. Allen and Sting versus Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky, which I think was the I can't even think what it was called. The cinematic matchup at the time. And then you had the Inner Circle versus Thing in the Stadium Stampede. Okay, so that was the matchup at the time. So that was the highest Double or Nothing match. And then the final two, so you got New Japan Wrestle Grand Slam in Tokyo Dome. What matches during that then, while I get that up?
Yeah, next question.
Wrestle Kingdom Night 2.
This is Wrestle Grand Slam in Tokyo Dome, so it's not even a Wrestle Kingdom.
Not quite then. Didn't even tell you when it was. I mean, obviously within the last 12 months.
He said where he was.
Yeah, that
then,
was
I was going
main
to
event.
When?
So it was main event
Grand Slam in the
Takagi versus. So Takagi versus Tanahashi was the main event on there. Dangerous Tekkers, which is Zack Sabre Jr. and Taichi, versus Los Ingobernables de Japón, which is Sonata versus Tetsuya Naito. Okada versus Jeff Cobb. A terrible New Japan Rambo with handcuffs match, which the whole matchup was a Royal Rumble, but you had to handcuff people or throw them over. So you had to handcuff them to the rope or throw them over the rope. I'm sure that was the matchup. So that was my event of the penultimate event of the year. So that came in at number 2. So a big surprise for people. My actual event of the year isn't a main established company. It's actually Revolution Pro based. I don't know if you caught much of Revolution Pro in your years.
I caught a couple of shows when they've come up here, but
Revolution Pro. They put on a banger of a show randomly. It was called High Stakes, and they had 2-star matches for me in the card. They called High Stakes twice. I'm gonna have to find out which one's which here. Here we go. So it was main evented by Will Ospreay versus Ricky Knight Jr. Jr. is related to Paige, if either of you knew that.
all right, okay.
That Ricky Knight Paige Dynasty family, yeah. So that was a Rev Pro Undisputed British Heavyweight Championship and the British Heavyweight title kind of unification match. Then you had Aussie versus Destination Everywhere, which was the other 5-star match on the card. And then there was just some good match UK based wrestling. So we had Joshelle Saw versus Heian. New Japan star Yota Tsuji, who's on sabbatical, was over here against Mark Ashkins. Michael Ridgway versus Robbie X. If you've not seen Chris Ridgway, he's fantastic. He's just an ass kicking machine. And then Shota Umino, who was another sabbatical guy. Obviously, we've already discussed him. He faced in the Windy City match against Jay White versus Dan. City Rev Pro High Stakes 2021. That's my match, the event of the year. Then
Beautiful.
Of your lives, never to be brought back. We'll go on the company year. So the quality, there's a qualifying thing out for company year. So I have to at least see 20 matches of event wise. So not like WWE where it's Raw, SmackDown, because otherwise I'd saw 4,000 matches by the end of the year. So it has to be something that's classed as an event or a pay-per-view. So New Japan shows, they're special, so they can kind of class into there, but Raw, SmackDown and stuff. Because I feel if I classed Raw and SmackDown, WWE would be last. Because there's always matches and 0 matches, so it's not really kind of fair to put that up against the New Japan show, which is not really going to have squash matches on. So only 12 companies / independent shows kind of qualified for this. So we'll start off with my home company, which is Kamikaze Pro. Came in at number 12. That's a very good year, but of a show, every other company, they're facing people in Japan shows and stuff. So for an independent to get on the list, let alone kind of rated high, is very difficult. I've got my highest rated matches of the year from each company, which I'll slate, and then if you kind of go in, you can discuss. Obviously, Kamikaze you'll probably discuss because none of you will have ever seen Kamikaze Pro Wrestling. So the 3 matches of the year for me was Sean Custom versus Chantel Jordan, which was at Sky the Limit's 8. Then you had Clint Margera versus Chuck Mambo, which I discussed on the podcast where Froz wasn't here, which was a beach ball death match. It was stupid, but stupidly fun. Literally, Clint Margera is a Stonewall deathmatch wrestler. He's a good wrestler, but he takes it serious.
Mm-hmm.
And Chuck Mambo's hitting him with beach balls, and he's just selling him what's happening while you're hitting me with beach balls. He whacked him with an inflatable shark. Then my favourite spot of the whole match. You know the good old table spot where you put it between the apron and the guardrail? He put a Lilo there, and then he's picked up Clint Margera to do that spot where you pick him up like that and drop on it. Clint Margera just landed and just stood up like, what? What's happening? But yeah, and then they started getting proper. There was tack and stuff all covered in tacks, which was grim. And then the main of my match of the year for them was Luke Jacobs versus Sean Custom again. So Sean Custom was kind of a bit of a role. He was the title holder for the company. I can see Kamikaze getting much higher this year as well. This was pre-COVID, like just after COVID, where you couldn't get any kind of independent stars in. Like they just got Warhorse in recently. It was really fun to watch. So yeah, they. Then at number 11, we've got Dragon Gate. Dragon Gate I hadn't watched much of until recently, but they just have bangers of the matches. But I think because they're so hard to get a hold of, people don't get a chance to watch them. That's where Pat grew up, basically, in Dragon Gate. That's where he kind of became who he is. So my 3 matches for that, for anyone that cares, from who watches Dragon Gate, because you two won't, these will just be names again. You had Shun Skywalker, which is a fantastic name, versus Yamato. Yoshi, which is a tag team, versus Red, which is like a faction, which this match was BXB Hulk, is his name, versus Ada. He was a long-time partner of Pac. Match of the year for Dragon Gate, which was a 4.5-star match, was Shun Skywalker versus KZY. Don't know if he pronounces it KZY or he calls himself Kizai. I'm assuming KZY, but there's no kind of like dots in it, so you would pronounce it that way. And then we'll go on to something that you'll probably have more, like you don't watch it, but you'll have more of a kind of knowledge of, which is Impact. They scraped it on there recently because I only watched 15 pay-per-view matches until I watched Rebellion this weekend, and they just scraped over the 20 mark. The best matches of it, you might have seen some of these. So it was Chris Bay, Moose, and Sammy Callahan, Chris Sabin, Matt Cardone, and Trey Miguel. So to dodgy like rating wise, this is why I stopped Impact a bit. The 3rd best match of the year for them, I rated a 3.25. Like as in the best match of the year, and it's kind of that's why I kind of gave up watching Impact. So I was just forcing myself to watch it. The other 2 are 4-star match: Moose versus Josh Alexander, which was the recent Rebellion match, literally a week or 2 ago. And then the match of the year for Impact, which I'm hoping you watch, was Kenny Omega versus Sammy Callahan.
Yeah, when everyone was convinced that Callahan was going to take the title back to Impact, everyone was convinced. That was one of the
including me.
Everyone was absolutely convinced that Callahan would take the title back to Impact.
And then it was crap.
And then coming in at number 9, a very small-known company called WWE. So they made it on there at number 9, so there's 8 companies rated higher than them.
Well done to the plucky underdogs.
The top 3 matches for them for this year. So surprisingly, Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville just didn't make my top 3 list. I know that's you guys.
Everything's null and void. It doesn't even count anymore.
Waiting for the podcast, just the show to stop there, and that's the end of the show. Look, if there's any other matches you can think of except for that, if I haven't mentioned them, so my top 3 was this will be a surprise for some people, was Kaylee Ray versus Maiko Satamora, which was an NXT UK show. Very good. Now, Maiko Satamora, if you haven't seen her like wrestle, she's fantastic. She must have been ICW at some point because she toured the UK for a bit.
I've seen Kaylee Ray versus
Maiko
Satamora at ICW before, so.
There you go. So think of that match. It was probably the same match. But yeah, it was very good. And then coming at the 2 was Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes, which was obviously a recent matchup that happened at WrestleMania. That was just a banger of a match. I expected it to be good, but delivered a lot more than I thought it was going to do. My match of the year, which Froz brought up earlier, was Walter versus Ilya Dragunov. It was always going to be. I think it was my match of the year last year for them as well. We had another one at NXT UK. Just pure.
Oh, that was
absolute
that was carnage.
Just like this, Dragunov won this, didn't he? If I remember,
Yeah.
this was the one where
Dragunov won that.
He choked with the title with a massive cut above his eyebrow.
So yeah, that was my WE. Came in at number 9 on the card this year. I don't know if there's any other matches you can think of that were kind of like you would put into the list of match of the year for them.
Belair and Lynch at Mania.
Yeah, and of course.
Like I like that 4-star matchup. Like it would.
Knoxville versus Sammy, obviously.
Well, I didn't see the need to bring that up. He knows he's messed up by not including
it. He
knows he's done wrong. We're going to go on to number 8, which was DDT Pro. So these will just be names again, I'm assuming. So Yuji Akabayashi. He's just a big, bald guy that's just angry. If that's his description right there. He's just a beast of a man. Versus Konsuka Takashita, which is the guy I was on about that's in AEW at the moment. Then we had Konsuka Takashita versus Tetsuya Endo. So I'm reading these the wrong way around, by the way. So that the first one I mentioned is the top match of the year. Second one I've mentioned is the second, and the third one was Harashima versus Yuji Okabashi. So if you notice, there's a major opinion there. There's 2 guys that are pretty much in the top 3 list continuously on there. I don't know if you've got a favourite match of the year out of them, if you want to discuss them.
No, I'm happy to go with your judgment, mate.
Yeah. You know what would have probably been better? Like, with this kind of thing, we probably should have wrote Muzzlerin into here, because he would have had an opinion on some of these Japanese matches.
Yeah.
Because he watches them. It's kind of you two and then me. Just going... following W, which came in at number 8, which I think is the highest rated independent, if you go with independent kind of based. I wouldn't class like Tokyo Japan Wrestling, which we'll get there, as independent based. Kind of one of the bigger companies in Japan. So this is the highest independent, which was GCW. So you've probably heard some of these. You had the G-Raver versus Jimmy Lloyd match, which I brought up with in the event. Atticus Kogar versus Alex Colon, which was that tournament survival. That was just a blood-soaked mess of a match. And then you had 4-4 Ohio, which is it's an Ohio-based team, which is Ricky Shane Page, Gregory Ryan, Eric Ryan, Eddie Only, Bobby Beverly, and Atticus Kogar once again was in this matchup, so he was in a great year, versus Team Murder Death Kill, which was AJ Gray, Alex Colon, Effie, Mance Warner, Matthew Justice, and Nick Gage.
Nick Gage.
So that was just an ultimate brawl match. Yeah, that was their version of War Games. They had like a War Games match there. What a carnage once again. Follow on from a company that you both probably watched quite a lot of, which was Tokyo Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yes,
very familiar. Matches of the year while I load it here, yeah.
You see that? My friends at R-Cade regularly host watch-along parties of TJPW, including one that they're hosting as we speak. The show just gone at the weekend there, I believe.
Nice.
Know what's going on, and they can discuss in the comments of what they think's better than these matches. Had Miyu Yamashita versus Yuki Zakazaki, which you both should have heard of. She was in AEW. The Magical Girl, I think she was called. They kind of got her over in that. Then you have Miyu Yamashita versus Mizuki, which was at Tokyo Joshi Pro 2022. And then Magical Sugar Rabbits. That's a tag team match if you want one, which was Yuki Sakazaki, once again, and Mizuki versus Neo Bishiki Goon, which is May Saint Michelle and Saki Sama. That was my match of the year, which was just like it was a very good tag team match. No Makito, no Hikaru Shida as well. She had a few matches with TJPW this year as well. Maki is very kind of like, she has good matches, but they're very gimmicky based for her as well. She kind of gets her own shit over. I do like her at the same time. So a bigger company, kind of. You probably heard of them. We're going for New Japan Pro Wrestling right now. That's coming in at number 5. So their matches of the year for them. There was a few more, but because I had probably about 5 or 6 5-star matches in New Japan. But these are the 3 I've mentioned that I've got listed. So we had Ishii versus Takagi, which was just a full-out brawl. We had Takagi versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. And then Takagi, to round off the clean sweep for him, versus Will Ospreay. Just a pure matchup. Like Will Ospreay was a dream year, but Takagi, his New Japan run at this point was like on fire. And then followed up in the year, like Zack Sabre Jr. kind of took over. Like he had a 5-star match against Takagi as well. Like Takagi was just Japan this year for me. My top, actually no, it's not my top Japanese promotion. There's another one above this, but you followed up by Noah, who's at number 4. They came in at number 4 with Naomi from Marufuji versus Takashi Sugiura, which I brought up earlier. Nakajima versus Kenoi, we were both in a tag team, a stable called Congo, which was an all-out brawl. And then Takashi Sugiura again, and I'm hoping you've heard of this guy, Masato Tanaka.
Heard of Tanaka?
Yeah, I've heard the name.
Old room like awesome. That's all what people normally mention of. Coming in at number 3, which is quite sad at the same time because it's but they're getting rebuilt now, is Ring of Honor this year. Great match, like events to round off before they got brought by Khan, and then obviously they had recently was a very good event as well. So you had Jonathan Gresham's Bandido, Supercard of Honor, Original Kingdom versus the Briscoes at Final Battle End of an Era, and then the Briscoes versus FTR, which was always going to be the top of the food chain this year for Ring of Honor. You've both seen that now, haven't you?
Yeah.
Sick. And then coming at number 2, and then we're going to be revealing the major winner, which I'm assuming we'll all know as soon as I mention number 2. So at number 2, we've got Stardom. This will mainly be for Cedar Tiger or Poi. He'll be more interested in this mainly more than you guys. But this was a clean sweep for someone else as well, which kind of, because I haven't done the ratings yet and worked them out, but like if you've got 3 5-star matches, you've got to be up there for Female of the Year. So you've got Yuri versus Mayu Iwatani. Mayu Iwatani is at the original All Out or All In, not the first show they had, but the second. I think it was All In when they had All In before they kind of had the Dynamite shows. She was part of the 6 women tag team matches on there. Then you had Shuri versus Utama Hayashita at Dreams Kingdom. And then a repeat of the same match, which was Utami Hayashishita versus Shuri at Dream and Cinderella Special Edition. So that had like a best of series, which were just all out brawls. Like Shuri is like on another level of a wrestler at the moment. So I wonder if we can guess who came in at number 1 this year.
ICW.
And I can't think of any ICW wrestlers. We had Krieger. He was up there versus Grado. That's another one I'm going to pull out my arse right now. But yeah, obviously number 1 this year because they had such good events was ICW. I've only rated you had the Young Bucks versus Lucha Bros at All Out, which was the cage match. That was a fantastic matchup. That was I rated at 4 3/4. And then the 2 5-star matches I had this year was Adam Page versus Bryan Danielson. It was the Winter is Coming event. And then I believe this year, I'm going to have to look into it properly because I've not really put these in order, but I've rated it as my match of the year for them, which was the Omega versus Cassidy versus Pac match. Proper sleeper match. No one really talks about it.
Oh, it was great.
Very good. So, cup in the year this year for myself and for Muzzer as he rises out of the ground. AEW, who have took it for the second year out of 3. So last year it was Stardom, and this year it's AEW again. They won it originally. Then just to repeat, we're going to go through the top 50 of the events again, starting from number 50. Event of the year was Rev Pro Holly Stakes 2021. So there we go. So
Nice.
next week, it's just going to be, we're going to do match of the year next week. So it's just going to be, it's going to be less me talking, but we can discuss a bit more. Whereas these, we kind of got them out of the way because it's just there.
Yeah.
We can discuss match of the year. We can throw out other matches of the year. This was just kind of to get it over. And then when you start going to the tag team and women and stuff, it's kind of more of a opinion based. When Knoxville doesn't make Wrestler of the Year. But yeah, so enjoy. That's the end of that. That only went on for an hour and a half. Let's finish that up.
Well, thank you very much for that, Ray. All it's left for us to say is thank you very much for joining us. Just a little reminder, there is that nice little red button that sits right underneath this video. I believe it's called the subscribe button, something like that. Anyway, when you hit that button, it really helps this channel out, along with the little thumbs up like button. And feel free to share this video around and give us a follow at honor_club. Unlike Rate, I know our Twitter handle.
I don't know if anyone understood that reference there.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. Don't. I'm not talking about it.
I just noticed.
It happened ages ago.
I know the handle.
So,
Oh yeah, I've just noticed it now. I was too busy rambling for 2 hours.
So that covers us for today. We will see.
On a club podcast.
That covers us all for today. We will see you. We'll be recording Thursday, but it'll likely go up Friday for the weekly podcast episode. We will bring muffins, though don't question how or why we know to bring muffins. Getting confused looks, but if anyone's keeping up with the news, they'll get that reference.
I've seen something. But...
What is this?
But anyway, on that note, we'll see you next week, guys. And we'll see you on Friday for the podcast. Take care, everyone.
Yeah.